Oh.
Oh, no. No audio.
Kev's on it. Well, they wouldn't know.
It's up now.
It's
that
up.
that new button we pulled up didn't have that.
There we go. So what's the best way? Should we just keep going? Kev?
I mean, it's up to you. I can just restart it too.
Let's restart.
Let's restart it.
Boot.dev takes your coding from beginner to expert the fun way through a hands-on RPG-like experience. Go to boot.dev and use code KINDAFUNNY to get 25% off your first year on the annual plan. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a special second bonus episode of the Kinda Funny Gamescast for Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. Of course, I'm your host, Tim Geddes. I'm joined today by Andy Cortez.
Hello, Tim. I'm hungry now than I was earlier when we were talking about being hungry.
Yeah.
Because more time goes by.
More time goes by. The hunger starts to fill up.
Yeah.
How was your break?
My break was pretty darn good.
Yeah?
It was 85 every day.
Okay.
In the valley.
Hot, but
and then as soon as I left, it got a little bit of a cold front. Like, oh, we have winter chills coming down.
Yeah.
We're getting a northern coming in, and it went down to like 65 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was like for the most part pretty warm.
Are you a fan of the 85?
Well, I want it to feel like Christmas.
Oh,
okay.
So it was not.
I want to be able to wear a jacket, but like you're just in basketball shorts, and you know what I mean. It just doesn't quite feel right, unfortunately.
I haven't ever thought about Texas Andy like that. Of like thinking about your outfits being different.
Oh yeah,
it's
just basketball shorts, t-shirt.
That's
all
so
day.
It makes sense, but wow, I just never pictured it.
I try to go with the joggers. A lot of zancudos, a lot of mosquitoes out there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
oh my gosh, these mosquitoes just nipping at you left and right, Tim. So you got to really, really be careful. But yeah, it was great. It was a good time. Great time being with family. Well, this isn't part of the sponsored thing, but it makes sense that we're part of this NVIDIA thing. Booted up that GeForce Now on my dad's LG for the first time. Yeah. Was able to log in. It was awesome. Like, it worked. It was great. It was very, very cool. So I was like, ooh, wow. This opens up a new portal that I don't have to worry about, like plugging in the laptop.
Things around.
Yeah. Very, very cool stuff.
Very, very cool. We'll be talking about some new places that the GeForce Now is available because this episode is partnering with GeForce. They had another GeForce On presentation at CES. We did this for their Gamescom announcement, so now we're doing it again here. We're going to kind of go over all of the different things that they announced at CES and specifically how they're partnering with different game developers for some big games coming up like Resident Evil Requiem and what's it called? The Phantom Blade Zero. And
Pragmata
and Pragmata and things like that. So yeah, very, very excited for all of it. If you're watching live, you could be part of the show by super chatting on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Remember, we couldn't do this without our producers over on patreon.com/kindoffunny. So thank you to Delaney the Psalm Twining, Carl Jacobs, and Omega Buster. So the topic of the show is now everything announced at NVIDIA GeForce On at CES 2026. Before we even get into all that, though, I just want to talk about PCs for a second. I've been telling you, Andy, over the last year, I've been planning a new PC build. It was just time, I've had one since, I want to say 2020. Actually, yeah, it was 2020 because it was when we had our the work from home setups.
Be real, Tim. Is this one of those things where you're like, I gotta get this done before the baby's here?
100%.
Yeah, this feels like one of those like I have really got to get the transmission fixed in the car before we actually get the baby here.
That is honestly the last couple months. Pretty much once I learned that the baby was coming, that was when I'm like, okay, I have to get the PC done because I've been kind of putting it off, waiting for the right time, whatever that.
Got a right piece here and there.
I'll tell you that. But definitely kind of being like, all right, cool. I have this part. I have this, whatever. Like, I'm just start planning in my head, watching a bunch of videos of like, what is the PC that I'm looking for? And then once the kid thing became a reality, I was like, all right, I need to build a PC that's going to last me for at least 5, if not 10 years.
Right.
And I've been over the last year, I was saying this a lot, but I have almost fully transitioned to PC gaming, whether it's PC or
it's my
Steam
guy.
Deck. I know it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's my guy.
But it did require a lot of tech getting to where I needed it to be, whether it was like cloud streaming stuff like GeForce Now, or just finding ways to get all of the fancy stuff with the right cables to my TV in the theater from my PC. And I've learned a lot of things that don't work, and like HDMI cables can only be a certain amount of feet long and all that stuff.
Or losing integrity.
Exactly. Or else you're not able to get like 120 or you're not able to get 4K or whatever. I have figured every single problem out. And I had the map, I had the vision, I had the 5090, the RTX 5090 from NVIDIA that they gave us for one of the sponsorships. So I was like, cool. That is
great place to start.
The best
that's the
possible
foundation.
place to start.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to build around that. And I did so much research and I started buying things and got good deals on most things. I got really screwed with the RAM. I really wish
everybody is. Yeah.
But
Tim, I'll tell you what, you open up Facebook Marketplace, you'd swear to God that like RAM was edible. it is all over the place on Facebook Marketplace.
It's wild. It's wild, man. But I got all the stuff, and I think this is my 4th PC because I had my like childhood one. Got to get a Dell. I got
okay, dude, you're getting a Dell.
Had that for a very, very, very long time, and then in like 2011, I want to say, was the first time I built my own PC, and that was me and Kevin. For the very first time, building a PC, we sat in my living room and like anti-static stuff, and like we're doing this.
No socks on. I picture Kevin on the little rolly wheel thing when you go underneath cars, like mechanics do, and like you laying the PC down, and him rolling out. Like
you are not wrong. It was a tag team back again situation.
You need a Phillips head, please.
We learned a lot there, and then, since then, Kevin's built countless PCs with kind of funny and all that stuff. But I haven't because I got the NZXT pre-built, which was awesome and still served me very, very well. But you know me, I always want the latest.
Of course, yeah.
And if I have this time, I'm gonna take it. So I was like, I'm gonna do this, but I challenged myself. I was like, I want to do it myself. Which I know isn't the craziest thing, but I was like, I want to build this computer without anyone's help.
I think that is pretty crazy and awesome. And I would not do that.
I did it, Andy. Over the break, I got every single piece. I put it all together, Legoed it. I'm pretty proud of the cable management. It could be better on the inside, but my cable management outside's impeccable, which is what matters more to me because the inside of my case is against a wall anyways. But I got it all together. Put the graphics card in, put the processor in, put it all. And I'm like, here's the moment of truth. I'm going to hit power.
If this doesn't work.
And if this doesn't work, I don't know. And I hit power.
I'm leaving the country.
And it just worked. Dude.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. It just worked. And I haven't had a single problem with this thing. And I'm gaming now, Andy. I played so many games this break, and I'm just booting things up just to see how they look. Yeah. And all of this NVIDIA tech that we're about to talk about, I'm just like, reveling in it. Like, it is so cool to see how good Expedition 33 can look.
Yes. Yes.
Because I played most of that on the Steam Deck, which was not the right way to play.
No, that's a tough experience.
But then when I used GeForce Now to play a lot of it, that was great. But where are you at with your PC right now? Are you happy with it all?
I love it. Yeah, I'm rocking my 4090, which I feel like I'll be good. Until I heard, murmurs about the 5080 Ti being super solid. I want to see what the numbers are there once, all these benchmarks come out and whether that's something that I'd be looking into upgrading. I think the only thing I'm looking at is my CPU because my CPU was really good several years ago. I still think it's super solid right now, but I feel like I'm running into more issues where I'm being like CPU bottlenecked.
Okay.
And you could have an RTX 9090 in there and like the CPU still like bottlenecked and not, and it's like a CPU limited game or whatever. And the GPU can only do so much if the game is engineered in a certain way. But yeah, I have a I have a Core i9 13900 or 13990. I forget what it is, but it's the highest end of the 13th gen. And that was about 3 or 4 gens ago now, because then we hit 14, then we hit 15, and now we're on, Core the new thing, whatever they're called, Ultra. I'm blanking on the name of like the new Intel series, but it's like I want another CPU, and I feel like that'll definitely get me kind of set for the next sort of run of here's what I'm looking at. But I have so many I mean, I love my PC. I have so many SSDs from like prior or not SSDs from prior machines that I have like I have 4 different 2 terabyte slots in. So I just have like all the storage I could ever want. I love my PC. It's still singing and humming, and I want to like reposition it on my desk. You mentioning your wire management, I'm like, I gotta do that.
You got it,
but
it makes you feel so good.
Tim, I would rather jump in a well with no way to get out than show anybody my desk ever.
But then you can change that. If you did this, you would be so proud. You would be so happy.
I can't
You'd invite Mike over to your room.
I like. There's so many times that people in my Twitch chat or even on Kind of Funny streams will be like, when are we going to get like a room tour? I'm like, never.
Yeah.
I am the messiest dude. I'm so embarrassed.
I don't want you to see
it's awful. It's really, really gross. But yeah, cables all over the place. I got power strips hanging from my desk when I lift it up. Like it's a mess underneath there as well that I'm not super proud of. But I love my PC. Things are still running immaculately on it. I one of my favorite things is just to, let me boot up that old game from 4 years ago because this and this got updated, or there's a new DLL file that I can now input to that old game and have it work. For example, in about 3 days, I believe, 4 days, 5 days, Anthem fully offline.
Oh man!
Before the Christmas break, hadn't played Anthem since the game came out, and our friend Chris Ranka and Kevin ASX were like, "Let's play Anthem one last time." And like this was the weekend that we chose. We found the weekend in mid-December. We hopped back in Anthem, played several hours of it, and it had to have been the earliest form of DLSS.
Interesting.
This is, Anthem is a game that came out in 2018, 2019, I think.
It's crazy, yeah.
And it had DLSS in there. And it was a much earlier version that is obviously not anywhere close to modern day DLSS. But I was able to drop the DLL file in there, and the newer, I think it was like DLSS 4.3 popped in, worked, looked amazing, and it like fixed so many of my problems. I was like, man, this rocks. Dude.
It's cool, man.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to just sort of have that interchangeable technology. But I love my PC, and we'll see if the 5080 Ti is something we'll consider in the future.
Yeah, a lot of people in chat were asking me if I went Intel or AMD. I've been an Intel guy my whole life. This is the first time I went AMD, and I'm very impressed. Like very, very impressed with what it's capable of, and I just love it, man. I just want to play more games.
Yeah. You're set up to like. What I'm excited for you to do is boot up the stuff that has gotten random like ray tracing mods in the past, and all of that stuff really takes it to another level.
That's the cool thing too. We'll get to it later, but like RTX Remix is one of the coolest things I think NVIDIA does, where they essentially allow creators to add RTX to old classic games, and they just make them look so cool and like just such a fresh way to look at. Like we did that Portal thing a couple years ago here.
We did Half-Life 2.
Half-Life 2, which is just, it's so cool. But
one game I would highly recommend hopping into to see what, RTX and ray tracing and all of that does and how it affects things and just how it upgrades everything is not only those, those Portal and Half-Life mods that you have up on RTX or RTX Remix. I would recommend hopping into Doom: The Dark Ages from this year, because it launched with ray tracing, but then several months later they added the path tracing update. And path tracing is like the fullest, coolest looking visual sauce. And also id Tech Engine is so well optimized anyway. Things run amazingly, but they look so unbelievable. That's one that I like. You got to check that out on like your super solid OLED monitor. It is going to sing, man.
Oh, man. So many cool things. Let's get into some of the announcements that they made over at CES during GeForce On. We'll kind of start with just like, I want to do a run through of like the headlines of like what was announced, what are we talking about? And then I want to get a little deeper into the game specific stuff. So the biggest thing was NVIDIA DLSS 4.5 is here. It delivers major upgrade with 2nd-gen transformer model for super resolution and 6 times dynamic multi-frame generation. Andy, what is DLSS?
DLSS is deep learning super sampling. It's the thing that we got to check out many, many moons ago when they invited us down there to look at Death Stranding with DLSS, and it's a way for their built-in AI to break down the image because it's much easier to run a game at 720p or 900p than it is to run at 4K. So it lowers the resolution of those video games and then uses AI to build the image back up to make it look insanely sharp and just as similar to the OG native image that you were looking at originally. One game that I love is Control, because every developer has their different ways of showing off tech, and every developer has different methodologies for how their menus should look and things like that. But one thing I love about Remedy is when you use DLSS and there's always like 3 or 4 options for DLSS. You could drop to quality, which is like the best option for visuals. You're gonna get more frames because you're dropping in resolution, but AI is making that look better. And then there's like at the bottom, ultra performance, which is using a much lower version of the resolution to get way more frames and get you more performance, but it might be a little bit fuzzier than you would hope. One thing I love about Remedy is that they show you the resolution that you're dropping to.
Okay.
And not every dev does that. And so like, I love that in Control or Alan Wake, if I'm playing on my 4K monitor and I turn DLSS on, I could go to balanced mode on DLSS, which is kind of like best of both worlds. And it'll show me that balance or balance on DLSS is like 900p or 1600 by 900, right? And then it's dropping down to that to then build back up to the 4K image. So I love seeing those numbers. But yeah, it's just a really awesome way because it's an awesome way to get more frames and more performance, because it's really hard to run a game at the full visual capabilities while getting as many frames as possible while running at a high resolution. If typically back in the day, if you want to run your game at ultra settings, you're not going to be able to play in 4K. You'd have to drop it at 1080 or whatever, or you're not going to be able to get 60 frames or whatever. So you might have to hopefully reach above 40 or whatever. And so these are ways to just kind of get the best of all the worlds and say, like, I want the best resolution. I want the best visual quality. I don't want to have to sacrifice and put my shit on low settings.
Yeah.
And make the game look worse if I want the most frames. Why not have all of it? And it's really, really cool what they've been doing recently and making the images get better and better as the tech keeps on, evolving.
When you are playing games, what is your default like what do you have overlaid in terms of what information you're trying to get that you want to see, like frames per second and like temperature or any of that stuff? Like, what do you care about?
I have I go with the NVIDIA overlay. I'm so used, I hit Alt R, and that's what activates the NVIDIA overlay, and I see frames per second. I see the 1% frame drop thing of like, the minimum FPS, and then I see GPU, CPU outage. And I believe that's it. I believe it's like, if you use the NVIDIA overlay, which I do, it's NVIDIA Advanced overlay, because I think or maybe it's basic. You can just have FPS, or I think the basic one gives you kind of
a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit of that, because I love seeing whenever I'm streaming, oh, my GPU is maxing out here. What's happening? This game just came out. Maybe it's not super optimized. I'm at 99% GPU, and my stream is stuttering, and people are noticing what's happening. What do I got to fix? And so, like, I think I'm always most impressed with NVIDIA's tech and just how powerful these pieces of hardware have become. With, I have a 4090, which was the top of the line from the prior gen, and people are still always blown away that I have a single PC setup.
Yeah.
The amount of times I get asked what my dual PC setup is, like, I don't have a dual PC setup. I play my games. Usually when I'm playing a game, it's like I know what I got to sacrifice. So playing a game on stream and sending the stream out to 4K on YouTube and 1080p on Twitch, I know that I'm not going to be getting 200 frames per second. Let me drop to a minimum of 80 so I don't mess with OBS. I'll, have my settings set to this and that. But it's like pretty crazy that I'm able to do all of that from my one single PC.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that goes to the advances with video codecs and AV1 and the NVIDIA encoder, being able to send out insanely high quality to YouTube and Twitch at the same time while not having me sacrifice
playing the game.
Yeah, and having to play Cyberpunk at 30 frames per second now. It's still going to look amazing.
So yeah, reading a little bit more about DLSS 4.5. They're raising the bar with 4.5, which introduces dynamic multi-frame generation and a new 6 times multi-frame generation mode. 4.5 can generate up to 5 additional generated frames per rendered frame compared with traditional methods, dynamically boosting performance and enabling 240 plus frames per second gaming with path tracing using GeForce RTX 50 series cards. This delivers the smoothest gameplay experience yet. A second-gen transformer model for DLSS Super Resolution also arrives with 4.5, bringing state-of-the-art image quality to over 400 games and apps powered by GeForce RTX GPUs. And this is here now.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I care. I care most about the DLSS Super Resolution. Like it, essentially, whenever you want something to run with DLSS, if you're annoying and nitpicky like me, you're always going to notice this thing isn't as clean as the native image, and all of those complaints that I've had have like dwindled down to where like I don't really have much to do.
The further they get, it's like they're solving the problems.
Yes, yeah. And so now the images have been cleaned up so much. Prior versions of DLSS introduced ray reconstruction, which cleans up a lot of ray tracing noise that you might have on your image. And so when you I remember, booting up Cyberpunk for the first time with ray tracing, and you turn on ray tracing, and then you look at reflections, and there's a lot of like noise and little movement there, and it's like, why is that happening? I don't love the way that looks. And ray reconstruction was added, and now those reflections are cleaned up. And yeah, the added cleanliness to the super resolution bumps that they've been getting have been awesome, and I'm super stoked to see. If I had the tiniest of nitpicks earlier, how are those getting solved and fixed now? And it's just really cool that we're seeing a continued, them to continue to strive to like get you the cleanest image possible while getting you the most performance.
Yeah. And then again, just run through headlines real quick. So Kev, you don't need to like try to keep up too much with B-roll on these, but NVIDIA RTX Remix update introduces new logic systems for dynamic graphics effects. We got DLSS 4 is available in over 250 games now, coming to a couple big ones coming out like 007 First Light, Phantom Blade Zero, Pragmata, with path tracing and many more. What is path tracing, Andy?
Path tracing is it's the more advanced version of ray tracing. Is always like a very selective thing where you could say like, I want ray trace reflections, where I want everything that would happen in the physical world, I want those reflections to happen in my video game. Or you could have ray traced ambient occlusion, which adds darkness between where objects are contacting, so things look like they're not just floating in the game. And there's ray traced shadows, ray traced, there's global illumination, all that stuff. Path tracing is kind of encapsulating all of it and doing what films do with rendering, where it's kind of like giving you the total package, where path tracing is having real light rays bounce off of surfaces in the way that you would expect them to act in the real world. Another cool thing about, talking about Remedy earlier, but in Control and Alan Wake, I believe you have the option to pick how many bounces you want these light rays to bounce.
Interesting.
So you could say like, I want light to bounce once or whatever, and that means that if you're in a room and there's light coming through, the light would if the floor is like really bright blue, then that bright blue is then going to light up the ceiling in the way that it would in the real world.
Yeah.
That's how just light works and the way light travels. But you could add multiple bounces to have all that stuff is like extra computing power and gets really expensive and taxing for your PC, but NVIDIA is making all of this stuff so much easier for your PC to run. And that's why, I think it was the first time I tried path tracing was with Cyberpunk, and it was like, oh shit, like
you pulling me over to show me.
It's one of those things where I always thought that all I cared about was ray trace reflections until I saw path tracing, and now my brain, I would say, like, if I had to pick and choose what I would want, it would be like shadows and ambient occlusion. Like, that's I love when I walk into a room in Cyberpunk and the area of the room that's furthest to the right, that's furthest away from the window, is darker because it should be. And now all that stuff sticks out to me a lot more. And when it looks accurate and works the way it should, I freaking love it. It's so gorgeous. Path tracing rules. And I'm one of my favorite things is just like playing through a really solid campaign game with path tracing on. Alan Wake 2 had path tracing, and that was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in gaming visually.
And then another thing they announced was more G-Sync monitors, one with Pulsar and ambient adaptive tech, available today, January 7th, where you can enjoy smoother, clearer gaming with over 1,000 hertz effective motion clarity. We're getting crazy, Andy.
Yeah, we're getting crazy.
We're getting real crazy here.
The one neat thing they talked about in this section was the adaptive tech of being able to read.
There's a sensor on the monitor that functions like phones do, where you can have it be like, depending on if you're in daylight or if it's nighttime, the kind of screen colors will change and the brightness will adapt to kind of like be more of what you're looking for. And obviously it's an option. Like I tend to not usually love those types of things, but I know a lot of people like.
I love it on my phone. I don't always love it with my gaming machines, but there are times where I had my Windows set to do that by default, by like a time schedule or whatever. And it wasn't, it was eventually something I turned off because I just got kind of annoyed with turning it off or whatever. But it is cool that the hardware is able to do that and you're not having to tell Windows or some third-party app to do it. Just little cute quality of life things that are really neat. Yeah.
And then the NVIDIA app adds 4.5 super resolution and a new GeForce Game Ready driver, of course. And then you were mentioning this earlier, but GeForce RTX gaming is being brought to more devices with new GeForce Now apps for Linux PCs and Amazon Fire TV. So you're talking about being at your dad's house and getting the GeForce Now app just on the LG TV and then able to access all of your NVIDIA or all the games that you have that have the NVIDIA stuff. Like now, Amazon Fire TV has a dedicated app. And I think this is going to, and Linux PCs as well, this is just going to continue. Like, we're getting to a point that almost any piece of hardware that you would want to have this app on,
that's connected to the internet or whatever. Yeah, I think that's just, opening up and making making this thing more accessible is like such a W. Like it's awesome that so many more people can now access this service, that similar to the way I talk about Xreal, like you bringing that into my life, I'm like, oh man, like.
This is legit.
The same way that my Steam Deck has changed the way that I game as well. This is another one of those services that until I started using it, it really took me using it to see the light and go, oh, this is how it's going to work into my gaming life and how it makes my gaming life easier, more accessible.
I always say this, but tech, whether it's hardware or software, it needs the use case. And that is an individual based thing of like, what is my use case for this product?
Right.
And it's like the GeForce Now use case, I think, it could be so many different things to different people, whether it is your primary way of playing games. Like you could just have this be like, I'm investing in this ecosystem being the way that I play games. And you don't even need a top of line PC.
Yeah.
You don't even need a PC at all if you decide to go that way. But I think that for people like us, it's such a great use case being, it's an addition to, right? We have our PCs, but when you go to Texas, you can't bring a PC with you. You know what I mean? But you have devices, whether it's the Steam Deck or your dad's LG TV, right? Or Amazon Fire Sticks or whatever.
Had one of those eureka moments the other day where I was, before we voted for Game of the Year stuff, was trying to just, what are some other short games that I can maybe get in and say, like, maybe I could fit this on my list, if I'm really into it. I know a lot of people love this game. And so I gave a shot to Sword of the Sea. And I was playing it on my Steam Deck, and it was, not hitting the frame rate that I was hoping, and it was like running at a lower resolution. And I was like, oh my God, GeForce Now, what am I doing? Booted up GeForce Now, ran like a dream. And the coolest thing about GeForce Now is that now you are, if the game is limiting you to 60 frames per second, but you're not even reaching that on the hardware, GeForce Now is going to hit 90 because that's what the Steam Deck can do.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting 90 frames per second, 90 hertz or whatever on that display. And it ran like a dream. It looks so freaking gorgeous. I could not, if I tried, look at where the artifacting is. Like it is such a good product for portability because it's like, it's so hard to even try to dissect and look and identify where are the visual imperfections here. It looked so clean and amazing.
Yeah. So cool. I want to get into some of the games like they're actually partnering with and what this actually is going to mean for some of the big games coming up very close in this year and actually some further out with Phantom Blade being September. But let's start with Resident Evil. Resident Evil Requiem. Kev, if you could bring up the video, I'd like to actually watch it with sound so we can hear them tell us what's up.
Evil has been thrilling gamers and pushing the boundaries of innovation and technology. We've been working closely with Capcom on Resident Evil Requiem to build on that legacy in transformative ways. Let's check out the latest RTX video showcasing path tracing and DLSS 4.
But also, like, did they have to give this game more realism?
Too maybe scary. Chill out.
Too scary. Gonna play on low settings. Too scared.
Love a good comparison.
Get those real-time reflections, gamers. Like, to be able to get... You're not just getting a shitload more frames with multi-frame gen. You're doing all of that with path tracing on.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of. It's obscene.
So
I cannot wait to play.
Pause it there, Kev. So obviously we're watching a video that they made and they're showing us their comparisons and stuff. You actively play games. You use this. You know all of what DLSS does. Is this real?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I think what makes me most excited about Capcom partnering with them is that not all Capcom games have been great on the tech side. And whenever I'm like having issues with the way games perform or look or the way they're implementing their version of ray tracing, I'm like, it's the same way I feel about From Software. I'm like, just please talk to NVIDIA. Like, why does this game not run as well as it can? Like, please partner up with somebody, and people who watch my streams can attest to that. The amount of times I'm like, oh my God, just please partner with somebody. And playing Monster Hunter Wilds did not have necessarily a great time with how the tech ran there. The same with something like, I can't really blame it too much because it's a bit of an older game, but something like Resident Evil 2 Remake, when I first played that, had its own version of ray tracing, and the tech just wasn't quite what you wanted it to be. And I ended up just turning off the ray tracing on Resident Evil because it was doing weird shit. It was like putting a white outline around everything and probably wasn't engineered the best. And the coolest thing about somebody as big and as powerful as Capcom partnering with NVIDIA is like, oh, they're taking this a lot more serious now. Yeah. They want this to look and perform the best. They want all of the ambiance that real-time shadows and real-time reflections and path trace ambient occlusion. They want what all of those effects can do in their horror game. That means it tells me that like they're taking this super seriously, and I'm just super pumped to see what the future of Capcom games can be with this NVIDIA sort of like closer connection, because I would have loved, or I said Monster Hunter Wilds, but Dragon's Dogma 2 was another big, a lot of it is like Dragon's Dogma 2 and the RE engine not being necessarily great with big open world stuff. Mm-hmm. But even when you're not dealing with open world stuff, if you're just dealing with, visuals inside of a room, it's like you still want the ray tracing, the tech to be taken to the furthest it can.
Yeah. And I mean, you were saying this, but definitely with Resident Evil, especially with Resident Evil Requiem, like you want these reflections, like you want all the rain and all the wetness and everything.
Yeah.
Like you want it to look as real and scary as possible. How excited / scared are you for a couple weeks from now when you and Blessy are gonna get locked in a room to stream this.
I'm getting a little sick. Got a little sore throat right now. I don't know if I'll be good by then. I don't know why. Like what Roger and Mike did really reminds me of what Joey would. When Joey would just sign us up to do stuff, I'm like, Joey, when are you gonna do something you don't want to do? You know what I mean? I'm not super stoked about it. I'm hoping that maybe Blessing lets me take the Leon sections.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Let me do more of the mouse and keyboard shooting or whatever. But like all that aside, and you know, this doesn't even have to do with me like, you know, glazing NVIDIA and stuff, because I always talk about their tech and how much I love it. But I'm super pumped to see our game running, our machines running Resident Evil 9 Requiem on our OLED TV.
Oh my god!
And like to be sitting there on the couch and like see it on the big screen. It's
gonna hit, man.
It's gonna look so unbelievably good. Especially with like maybe not this section.
Yeah, I mean, we got to play this, and it was terrifying.
No, thank you.
I am so hyped for this. I have such high hopes for Requiem, and I really think they're gonna meet them. Like I've loved all of the last couple releases, like 2 remake, 3 remake, 4 remake, 7 and 8. Like all of them have been very, very, very high for me. So this kind of looks like taking all of the lessons they've learned from those projects and like pushing things forward in a way that I'm like, this looks beautiful, and scary and terrifying and fun.
You're right.
That's the other thing, is like it looks fun.
Yeah, one awesome thing about, you know, even if you're not the biggest fan of multi-frame generation and, you know, using AI to add frames in between the real native frames, like even just having DLSS on without multi-frame gen, what we saw there in those graphs of this is the core game running without DLSS, but path tracing is on. You're getting 58 frames, sub 60. You turn DLSS on, which is not going to give you these, you know, artificial frames. It's not going to be generating frames for you. You can just turn DLSS on, and you're going to get more performance anyway, because you are lowering the in-game native resolution that you're running it at from 4K down to 1080 or something, or down to 720, and then it's using the AI to upscale that, and it looks fantastic. And yeah, I'm just super pumped to actually see the final product on a big TV in front of me running, like not just on a compressed video, you know?
Yeah, I think it's the first big game this year that I'm looking forward to, because end of February, like there's not too much going on January, February off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, very excited for that.
You have a lot of time for like that.
There's gonna be a lot of time to play games, right? But let's stick with Capcom, because Pragmata as well.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, then Capcom really kind of partnering up with NVIDIA, with Resident Evil, with Pragmata. You gotta hope Onimusha is going to be on that list as well when it's finally time. But let's check out the Pragmata section and see what's going on here.
We've teamed up with Capcom to bring RTX tech to Pragmata, their newest sci-fi adventure game. Today, I'm happy to announce that path tracing is officially coming to Pragmata in addition to DLSS 4. Let's go behind the scenes with the development team in Osaka to hear more.
Which kind of makes sense, because you say like somebody is pragmatic.
Yeah. I love that none of us have brought that up.
But then you say pragmatism.
But we never say Pragmata.
人類が月の鉱石をもとに製造したルナフィラメントと呼ばれる新素材を使うことで、あらゆるものが 3D プリント
For
できる
audio
ように
listeners, I'll read over if you want me to right now.
地球への帰還を目指す物語が描かれます。異変の起こった月面施設に調査に訪れた
and it's like it was a genuine surprise of like, hey, there's some fun here. Like, who knows if it's going to be the best thing ever? But like, I think that there's something nifty about this as a video game.
No, I think it's going to be a great time. I think this is like going to be a solid 7.5 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Cool,
good.
But the coolest thing about it is that this is very unlike every other Capcom game, where everything is very organic, or wood, or stone, and maybe you're only getting reflections when something's wet. Here it's like you're in a sci-fi world that is full of gloss, full of reflective surfaces, full of sci-fi paneling that are all like, you know, metal looking or whatever, steel looking, and that's going to make the path tracing go so hard.
Yeah.
This game is going to look so fantastic.
Look at this.
And the awesome thing is that the game is already based on the demo I played, really optimized. Which like I'm so pumped that like that maybe that you know the future of Capcom games get more and more optimized, and they don't feel super stuttery at launch and have to wait for a couple of patches. The game already felt really optimized, and to now tell me you're going to get a very optimized, hopefully finished product, and you can run all of that stuff with the highest end of the end visuals, and the game's not going to be a stuttery mess, because with DLSS 4.5, you're going to get more frames, more performance, while you're doing all of that with path tracing on. Path tracing is so intensive, and to be able to have all that on while not dipping a whole lot in you know performance, super awesome. Like I can't wait to check this game out running at like full capabilities.
I'm excited. I'm hopeful for it. You know, like I think that it's going to be like this is going to be one of those weird ones that I think is really going to hit with games media people. You know, like I think it might be like that weird like surprise darling. But yeah, we'll see. We're still not quite there.
I liked it a lot based on the demo. I mean, I liked it when I played it at PAX, when it was just on controller.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I played it on PS5 at PAX just on a normal DualSense or whatever. But when the demo came out for Steam a couple of weeks ago, during, you know, right before we hit holiday break, I was able to download that on Steam and played it on my rig at home with keyboard mouse. And I love a third person or third person shooter on keyboard mouse. Like I often tell Snowbike Mike, you could just put me in aim labs with just like click the things and I get satisfaction out of just aiming accurately or whatever. Like it was a lot of fun to play on keyboard mouse. I had a really, really good time with it. And yeah, to be able to see the way this runs at full power, full visual capabilities is going to be really rad.
Yeah. And then the next game I want to check out is a big one for you. Phantom Blade Zero. We got a September release date for this. And the RTX effects of this look awesome. So if you could pull that up, and this is another one I'd like to watch.
And this one we can have with the audio on, because we won't have to overdub. I understand some audio listeners were like, we don't speak Japanese, Andy.
An indie game I made all by myself in like 15 years ago. In 2021, we decided to make a major shift to big console and PC titles. That is the beginning of Phantom Blade Zero. We created a style, we call it Kung Fu Punk, in which we mix in our own Chinese culture and Chinese wuxia culture with those cool elements from modern entertainment industry, such as steampunk, folklore, and also cosmic horror and such. I would say it's neither Souls-like nor hack and slash. We would love to create something in between, something with both the explorations and also fast-paced combat.
What I want to hear.
The very good thing for PC gamers is they have different ways to experience the game. I think RTX and DLSS 4 are the main features that enhance our game a lot. The rain is one of our core environmental features. So having a convincing presentation of anything in the rain is important, and we count on ray tracing system for this. It's difficult to maintain the frame rate while you have a top-notch graphic. So DLSS 4 and other NVIDIA technologies support us to get a stable frame rate while getting the best graphic.
Oh my God.
Dude. Yeah, that's going to be massive. So not to toot my own horn, Tim, but I'll toot my own horn.
Andy.
And I've said this often, I got to play this game twice. 2 separate times, no big deal.
So cool.
But you could see the early nature of development, and we obviously saw the hype, and you got that feeling of, oh shit, this actually it does perform the way it looks on screen. When we first saw the trailer, we're like, there's no way it actually controls like that. These animations are kind of too fluid. Like that looks like pre-canned bullshit. But actually playing it, you're like, oh, it actually is real. It is a real game, and I can do everything that character on screen is doing. But you saw the early development cycle, because I played this at SGF, not in 2025, in 2024, and was playing on I believe a PS5, and whenever games on PS5, we saw this with something like Jedi Survivor, whenever your game is trying to do a lot visually, it's got to do its dynamic resolution stuff to try to give you more frames, because it's like, hey, we noticed the frame rate's dropping crazy here. We got to lower our resolution real low in order to try to keep the frames up as much as possible. And there were plenty of moments in this game where wild visual effects are happening on the screen whenever you are attacking stuff. And you would notice the resolution get real noisy and artifacty. And it's like, okay, well, this game's very, very early in development. So these are some of the solutions they're having to integrate right now in order to make the game playable and not just be a stuttery mess frame rate wise. But I think one of the... I've never loved the... While I do understand people's thought process here, there's a lot of like people that criticize this technology and they go, developers are just going to use this as a shortcut and use DLSS to like not fully optimize their game. And maybe I agree with that for the larger, developers that have thousands of employees and like, come on, you could take the time to do this. But I think of the smaller teams that want to strive for a lot, but don't have the budget, or maybe they just took out a second mortgage or whatever. The smaller teams that are trying to make something look really, really awesome, that don't have 6 months or a separate team to do full optimizations and concentrate on that, because they're concentrating on making their game. And I love that technology like GeForce can help teams out like that maybe don't have the amount of time or budget or employees to be able to do as many optimizations as, and I know that sounds like I'm kind of excusing laziness, but like I'm not. I hope you all understand where I'm coming from. I hope you all give me the grace there. But I'm really, really stoked to see the way and the art direction that they've been doing in Phantom Blade Zero, how it can be pushed with NVIDIA tech, because it looked really cool while stuttery and noisy at some moments on PS5, and I can't imagine how it's going to look in 4K with RTX, with path tracing on. I get so excited when I walk into a room and I see like, oh, that board against the wall is casting the shadow perfectly, and that object has shading underneath it because it's making contact with something. That's how light works, and that's the stuff that makes my neurons fire, and I get all excited because it looks so pretty. And this game's going to look super, super damn good.
I think that we're in a very special position here. That you said it, but you've played this game twice. Like, that is very, very lucky, because not many people, even in the industry, have been able to get their hands on it once.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about your experience with the game, like how it feels and like how it compares to other games that you love.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, one thing why they keep on mentioning, we don't want this to just be a Souls-like. And I loved their sort of methodology behind the development and what they want this game to be. And I loved what they told me, because I've never felt it more in my soul, no pun intended, when he said, when you're Miyazaki, when you're From Software, you have free reign and a lot more forgiveness. You have a lot more of a leash to do stuff and maybe make mistakes, because the audience, you've built that trust. The audience knows who you are. They trust you. They go, all right, maybe I'm not digging this, but I trust you to not lead me astray, right? Game design wise, you're doing this for a reason, and you're the GOAT. And he was just like, yeah, he's the best. We're not him. We're not given that grace. If we make a game that is equally as punishing, maybe more punishing in some cases, people go, you're not From Software. We're going to drop this. We don't want to play anymore. I loved the self-awareness there, because I've felt that so much playing a lot of other Souls-likes, where if I'm fresh, I'm like, you're not fucking Miyazaki, bro. You're not worth it right now, And, that's usually tongue-in-cheek, but, there's a tinge of truth to that. And him saying that was like, oh my God, you get it. You're so self-aware of this, and you know that not everybody has the patience to stick with something if they don't believe that the fruit at the end, the carrot at the end of the stick is going to be worth it, right? Mm-hmm. And to have that self-awareness was so awesome. It was so great to hear. But they were building this game on sort of 3 core pillars of like, we want really awesome storytelling like God of War does with the more recent titles with Sony Santa Monica. but we also really want the level exploration of like Dark Souls 1 and that interconnectedness and, finding the shortcuts and all that stuff. That's all super present here. But yeah, the first demo I played at SGF was just that boss rush. It was like, here's 3 different boss fights. We don't have a whole lot else for you to do. And
did you get to play the boss that we've seen, like the full boss fight trailer?
Yes.
That is so cool.
I played that at GDC last year, March of 2025, February 2025, whatever it was. That's the one that from the trailer, from the Year of the Snake trailer that we saw, was able to play that, and everything looks and operates the way you think it should. Like it's because they were telling me they have such an emphasis on the in-between animation, the transitional animations, where the reason why the game looks so fluid and smooth is because it doesn't just look like a character hit A here and then a character hit B here, and those are 2 separate things. They have worked their asses off on trying to always have like, well, if they did this move and then this other move, we want an animation in between to make that transition smoother and not just make it look like input or whatever. Yeah. It looks as awesome and as fluid as you would hope. And so I can't wait for the finished product. I'm so shocked that the finished product will be this year. Yeah. We'll see if it doesn't get delayed.
Yeah, man, hey, I'm hopeful. Let's see.
But it's really awesome, and I'm really pumped for people like you to try it, and for the people who aren't into Souls-likes, because again, they kept on saying we're not a Souls-like. We're not going to respawn enemies whenever you die.
Yeah,
we don't want that to be this punishing thing where you're dealing with the runbacks. And they kept saying, again, we're not From Software. Mm-hmm. We don't have that grace with players yet. Maybe we'll earn that trust later, but they did mention for the hardcore, we will have like multiple difficulty options for the hardcore that want. This is the game mode that brings back enemies whenever they die.
Yeah.
This is the game mode that has that won't restart you at a checkpoint in a phase in a boss fight. Because that's another thing they're doing for approachability, where
that's cool.
If there's a long boss fight that has 2 phases, if you die in the second phase, you restart at the second phase. You don't have to go back to the beginning of the boss fight.
Well, are you saying there's an option to change?
Yeah. So the more hardcore option will be like a traditional Souls experience. It was like, you got to start again, big dog. Go through that first phase again. Wow. They have that for the hardcore people. And for the people that just want the more approachable experience, will be able to start whenever.
Because I want to do it.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it 50 times.
But the weaponry is just so sick. The abilities, the visuals, the music in that one boss fight is still one of the coolest things. It's going to be really rad. This is going to be a really awesome video game.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. And also, like them saying it's not a Souls-like, and it's also not a hack and slash. It's somewhere in the middle. It's like, oh, that sounds like a sweet spot that I really want, because I love hack and slashes. Souls games, I like elements of them. So it's like getting somewhere closer in the middle. I'm like, yeah. Because I do like that challenge, I do like the difficult boss fights, but there's just, when you add on, it's a difficult boss fight with multiple phases, that there aren't checkpoints, and there's the run back, and it's all that stuff. I'm like, okay, you're losing me a bit, So yeah, very excited for that. Let's check out the 007 First Light bit, because I want to see what they're doing for IO's next game coming out in a few short months. You hyped on 007?
Have I hopped on?
Are you hyped on it? Because you're not really a Hitman guy,
I've never been the biggest Hitman guy. I guess I'm excited in hopes to experience like cool acting and cool story turns, but I've never been a Bond guy, period.
Gotcha.
Like Mission Impossible is my Bond, But I'm excited just to see, a developer like IO take on this new challenge of being way more narrative heavy, like how are they going to adapt while still including what we expect from IO?
Yeah, let's check this out.
Hi, I'm Keita. For 24 years, my team and I have had the privilege of partnering with the world's best developers to bring cutting-edge, high-quality games to GeForce gamers. One game I'm very excited about is 007 First Light. Let's check in with my friends at IO Interactive to get an inside look at how they created an original Bond story for PC with DLSS 4.
We saw the way this game ran on PS5.
What are we waiting for?
So that's going to be really exciting.
007 First Light is an action-packed story-driven adventure spy thriller where you play as a young James Bond as he ventures on his first journey and his first steps into the larger world of spycraft. Bond hasn't been in games for around 13 years or so. Because we're doing a younger Bond, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to really explore how the relationships he has in his younger years, how they affect him as a character.
The primary tech that we are developing together with NVIDIA is all the DLSS features, especially of DLSS 4. Everything from multi-frame generation to super resolution is incredibly useful and something that we have integrated very, very closely into the game.
Remember how stuttery that was?
Yeah.
During the first.
Yeah.
Can you rewind that, Kevin?
Really
just the explosion stuff with the plane, because like I remember how rough that was the first time we saw it, and obviously time has gone by and they developed it more and optimized more, but that shit looked really impressive. You can bring up the volume also. Sorry, Kev.
DLSS 4. Everything from multi-frame generation to super resolution is incredibly useful and something that we have integrated very, very closely into the game.
Yeah. Wow.
Having software and hardware working together and getting the best out of it while using these techniques really helps us to push the limits. So we are very proud of what we did together, and it's been a great experience working with NVIDIA.
I would hope that we find a new, fresh audience for Bond and that they get to connect to this character. And I would hope for them that they get to fall in love with him a little bit like we have.
I mean, this looks great,
dude.
We are very proud at being the team that can actually bring 007 back into gaming. This is something that we want to nourish and see what we can do to encourage players to actually just enjoy this experience that we're crafting for them.
Dude, cool. Okay, like more excited after seeing that.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, I just wasn't excited to see how, you know, maybe it's just coming in from a standpoint where I don't love Bond to begin with, and also it didn't run super smooth in the first time we saw it. But everything we've seen here is just like so fluid and so damn good.
The whole thing for you,
yeah, really, really damn good.
Them saying that it's his first time, the first time there's a Bond game in like 13 years. I'm like, wow, that's really crazy to think about.
Yeah,
and like to think about how core GoldenEye was to video games, right? Like, I want this to hit. I really want this. To be good.
Yeah, for sure.
The last thing I want to check out as we wrap up the episode here is the RTX Remix updates, because I'm always so impressed by what the team over there does with old games, just making them look brand new. Like, it's so cool. And sometimes it works better than others, but I'm impressed with so much of what I've seen and played. Like Need for Speed Underground is like, that game was made for RTX and ray tracing.
1000%.
And it looks so cool.
Wet roads. Shout out to Niall.
Last year, the Remix community released over 50 RTX mods. One of my favorites is Unreal RTX. The game that launched Unreal Engine 1 in 1998 has been remade with RTX graphics, and it looks awesome. And then there's Left 4 Dead 2 RTX.
Wow.
The remix, it looks like a game that could have released this year. Today, we're announcing a new feature called Remix Logic, an easy way for modders to change up the graphics based on game events without needing hours of programming or source code. It makes RTX mods feel more dynamic. Let me show you. When I open this door, I can see a familiar landscape from Half-Life 2 RTX. But this door uses Remix Logic, and each time I open it, it changes the world around me. Here's a sci-fi device. When I pick it up, Remix Logic makes the buildings start to breathe in a dreamlike way. This control over cause and effect can even create new gameplay possibilities. Take this crossbow, for example. With Remix Logic, when the camera zooms, it creates a night vision effect, allowing me to see the zombie that was hiding in the dark. We can even create a system that warns the player about incoming danger. For example, when an enemy's nearby, I see this dramatic pulsing effect.
Oh, sick.
Or I can create complex and cinematic sequences. When I activate this machine, Logic makes it emit particles. Those particles become chaotic as the machine overloads. And when it blasts a beam into the sky, Remix alters the visuals to create a nuclear skyline. It even triggers the zombies to disintegrate. Modders will be able to connect a wide variety of game events to change over 900 graphical settings. Logic is going to add another level of flair to Remix mods, and it arrives later this month.
Dude, that's crazy. Just
super cool.
Last year,
just
we shared the
giving
addition
modders
of
even
GeForce
more
RTX
tools
5080
to
servers
go
to
off
our
and make
GeForce
crazy
Now
shit is
Ultimate
like
membership.
really awesome.
And the ability to
And
install
again,
your
like
own
the amount
games
of
with
games
new
they
cloud
showed that are
storage
like
options.
old
The
classics.
rollout is now
You can pause
complete,
now, Kev.
and we couldn't be more excited.
Old classics like that look so new. Like
Yeah.
it's just incredible stuff.
The Left 4 Dead one, I think. Well, I watched all this yesterday, but I didn't. I must have like looked down during the Left 4 Dead part, but that looked freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like. I to be clear, those mods are not replacing like the core,
The game.
the core game experience or whatever. It's just a cool way to show, hey, modders,
But you can.
we're giving you a lot of like really cool freedoms and cool abilities that you can put into your game mods. Really awesome.
Yeah, super
Rad
super
stuff.
cool. So yeah, that was CES for NVIDIA GeForce. I hope we get to do more of these when they do more GeForce Ons, because it's always cool to see them continue to update DLSS, but also add more games to GeForce Now, and just like more kind of collaborations and partnerships with developers like Capcom and IO and all of them. So yeah, very, very cool stuff. Andy, thank you for joining me today on this episode. The day is not over. I think we have Nick and Mike playing more of that Army of Two right after that, after this. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, have a great day.
Pleasure to serve you.